The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you, 'cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you, 'cause I made you.
Okay, hello everybody. This is a part of the interview I'm doing for episode 46 of In a Good Way podcast. Right now, we've actually agreed to do a soul reading first. Maria Lupita Gurule is a psychic medium, a soul reader, amongst many things as well, right? We're gonna get into all of that in the interview. But right now, we're about to do this soul reading, and we're gonna let you all see. I'll be able to confirm things. I'm very blunt with, like, some things rings true or not. So we'll do that part, and that way, it'll be beautiful for the audience to be able to see these gifts that she's had since the NDE or even before that, or.
Well, I had some experiences early on. Every single one of us has an intuition. I've always had a deep devotion to La Virgen, La Blessed Mother. I've always had like these really deeply spiritual experiences, but this happened after my NDE.
Okay.
And so, and this is a soul reading, which is, maybe, and we can probably talk about that in the interview, but it is a little bit different. So at first I really struggled with, like, do I call myself a psychic? That was really hard because in my own Spanish Catholic upbringing, we don't mess with stuff like this. So it took a lot for me to really understand, what's even happening. Then the first thing that started happening was like sensing and feeling loved ones, then sensing and feeling like people, situations, and what was happening. Then I would start talking, and it was just really, I had no intentions of ever doing this ever for anybody else. And it was really for my own understanding. And the more that I began to like go in the direction of prayer, trying to figure myself out, I began to sense and feel things of people that I just shouldn't. And people would come to me like for advice, and things would come out, and I would be really surprised by it. And then little by little, like God had a plan. I never, ever had intentions, never would have ever thought of doing something like this professionally. But like I said, God had a plan, and I guess so did my soul. So it started off in this way of just being able to say, like, sometimes I get these images. Is it okay if I share things with you? And things would just start coming up. So it's soul reading, because truly what it is that as I sit with people, I'm not like going in to find their loved ones and then bringing people and like communicating with them. It's more similar to what people would call Akashic readings, but I don't even really call it that. What we're doing is like with permission and only with permission. And I always pray first that when I'm able to, given the sacred honor of really sensing and feeling what I call the God spark. So it's like the sensing images, body feelings, like things. And so I have no idea what will come up. And what's been happening a lot recently is really like this star energy, star seeds, star beings. And so it's become like this partial channeling. So when I sit with people, I have no idea what to expect. And I don't want the easy stuff. I mean, because it's so easy. I stay away from flowers, which is really funny because I think it's so easy for, somebody to say like, oh, your loved one's giving you flowers and they love you. Well, anybody can say that. And of course, that's what it means. But I know that when it comes up, ooh, it means something. So I have no idea. This is why I get a little bit nervous. So the most important thing is I'm just going to like settle in and let's just see what comes up. If you're open and willing, let's just see what goes.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you so much. So I'm going to take a moment because this is just like us talking. I'm just going to ground into myself. And I like to open up in this way, that I take a deep breath. I place my hand on my heart. I invite the person to do it, but they don't have to. So I'm just going to take a deep, deep breath. And my intention for doing this, Omar, is that really it's about creating this like safe and open heart connection. I'm picturing like a bubble around us of safety, just opening up and just allowing that whatever needs to come through, that I trust whatever information, messages, guidance, that it can come through for you. And I just thank you for the sacred opportunity for being able to sense and feel you. Truly, it's a sacred honor. You know, all of a sudden I'm getting this. I don't want to, this is, I don't know if it's a car club, but I am seeing like Aztec warrior stuff. I'm seeing like spray paint. It looks like there's the image of the Aztec warrior holding the princess. There's like these deep, deep roots. I'm hearing, um, oh my gosh, like low rad. Okay, and there's like this take a little higher, and there's like this whole groove to it. um it's like deep. I oh god, I have chills. I'm seeing like all of this stuff with the community. I don't know if like you MC, if you mic, do you do stuff with music?
Yeah.
Okay, so oh, and but I'm seeing like even like events, group events, like big, huge things where people come and gather. I'm seeing even doing things with the youth. So this is big. This is major. So, oh, and I have, mm, I see like playing b-ball. I see out on the streets. But this is huge, huge. I'm gonna call it a movement, okay? And more so I want to say el movimiento. Okay, so it's about like deep roots. I can't fully explain it all, but it's like deep, deep, deep. Now all of a sudden I am seeing my own gente. So I, in my bloodline, okay, in my I have familia that live in LA. And I'm seeing like all of this past history. I'm seeing like, okay, are you currently doing something ancestral, like like finding your roots, going through ancestry, like trying to figure it out, asking stories, like trying to figure out like there's something feels like it's missing. Does that make sense to you?
Um, I mean, I've done things in the past with the youth, right? I performed, but it wasn't like a huge. It was decent, but not nothing huge, huge. I
Mm-hmm.
just finished an album like yesterday, right? But but this one's not so cultural. I've actually done like, I literally had an album that I did once called a cultural revolution, right? But this was
Mm-hmm.
years ago, but it never like
Mm-hmm.
went. But the funny thing was, I actually had an album, when you said it, that was supposed to be the name of it, and it was an album that never came to fruition. It was called Live Free or Die Book to El Movimiento. So that's why it's funny
Oh,
that you said, yeah, yeah, but it never came. Like, people, I didn't feel I had support,
oh,
so
my.
I let
Oh,
it.
oh, okay. I
I didn't feel,
cannot
yeah.
explain to you like the level of chills that I have. This is something massive, man. Like this is something that is so deep inside of you that, okay, now I also want to say like there's a little bit of something that I'm feeling like, which way do I go? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? Do I do this? And you're like, eat, but if I go that direction and you're like fighting something inside yourself, there's a message that's trying to come through. And literally, I do want to say like the revival of el movimiento. Like this is something that is so deep and that the time is now. Even though if it was years past, okay, there is something that's so incredible. And I even do see that working with the youth, doing MC miking, even doing some other stuff publicly is still part of you. Like that is so deeply ingrained. And I even do see you like taking on like mentorship. The craziest thing is, oh, you have no idea the power of gentleness. There is something that you are working with como los hombres, con los hombres, para ser hombre, okay? To be a man, to be a worthy, like spiritually connected, enlivened man. Like there's something that is like really within you that is pushing you to seek, to find. This is why you're drawn to all of this. I also feel like you yourself had a really deep experience. And I all of a sudden get this really deep feeling of like this like it's more than mother. Okay, so I don't know if like if you were partially raised by your grandmother, but there's like someone who comes through that's like really really powerfully strong, that like comes through like that kind of energy.
Hmm.
So it's like grandmother, like, but it's deep love, like care, So I don't know what that is. Does that make sense to you?
It's funny because I actually wanted to ask you. So I noticed like during the pandemic, I started going places alone. You know, you couldn't, and they were like, oh, stay home. But I was like, I'm out in nature here, like by myself. Who's gonna, and so I would go places. And I remembered, I didn't even remember, I had recorded something. And then I was out in the mountains, right? I went for a hike. I was deep in the mountain and I was recording a deer, right? And all of a sudden, after for a minute or 2 minutes, then once the deer pranced off, I went like that and I realized there was a mountain lion like just staring, and I was like, oh wow. And then all of a sudden I heard two women speaking, right? There were two women. So I was like, okay, let me catch up to these women. And then you could see for like a mile there were no women. So just thanks to hearing these women, I went, but there were no women. But it was almost like they, and then I was watching an old video from like over a year before. I was in this abandoned cemetery and I was like, wow, I just heard some women talking. And I said it in the camera as I'm recording this. So I was like, who are these women that I'm hearing when I'm in an abandoned cemetery up in the mountains? Like, who are these women? Because it's
Oh
more than
God.
one. I hear them talking.
Okay, I have chills. Okay, because what I'm feeling really strongly is like this very strong protective, like a grandmotherly mother, like protective energy with so much love. And it feels like this energy has like taken care of you. Okay. So like as you're describing this, I'm like, oh my gosh. So there are moments where we literally have these so all of time and space opens for you. It's like literally like an earth, like not an earth angel, but like there are moments where we bend space and time. So like, oh my God, around a mountain lion, and then guiding you out. There's a protection. It's literally like we all have access to it's a divine spirit team, a support system, and it includes all kinds of angelic beings and guides and all of these things. So like this is really deeply yours. It's happened to me on two occasions. One when I almost got into an accident. I spun out, was headed for a pole, ended on the other side of the pole without ever it was like phasing through. It was crazy. And then also hearing a voice once just in that moment, and I shouted out, "Oh God, help me." And I heard the voice like, "Be calm." And then so it's that is what you're experiencing. And so in those moments you're like, and you're opening up into, so in the cemetery you're like wanting to open up and hear and listen. And then in the other one it's a protection, like divine intervention for you to get you the heck out, because your soul, your spirit is like, okay, follow us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I feel it really strongly around you because it feels like this deeply protective but so loving. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, now the other thing is, are you also writing? I mean, oh my God, I feel like you carry a book and you write all kinds of lyrics. You have so much content, like you have so much stuff. You have binders and binders and binders and spirals and spirals and spirals. And if and I even see like where if you would have had one like rolled up, even if you just stick it in your pocket and then just whenever you can, you like just, and I want to say you're spitting it out, okay? So you're jotting it, writing it down. You've got to like you could like even have like a book of poems and stuff. And I am going to come back to the original thing that I saw is like, do you know what the image I'm talking about? Like the Aztec warrior holding the princess and like this. You don't know what I'm speaking of?
Of course, of course. I mean,
Okay.
I as you were saying that, and so of course I'm gonna edit that. Like, it's gonna be focused on you, but I was getting choked up because. All right, let me see if I could. It's kind of hard to talk about, but
Okay.
no offense to anyone, because I have been guided. Because even that, right? I became a part of like a native community, so I've been going to ceremonies for like, close to a decade, right? And I was constantly shown to embrace all peoples, right? It's like if the creator was putting me there on purpose. Like it didn't matter if I went up north to a ceremony, or I kept ending up in ceremonies that were, because I've been to ceremonies that they didn't allow white people, they didn't allow like
Oh yeah.
things like that, right? So it was like I kept ending up in ceremonies where there was one where I was, right there in the sweat lodge with a rabbi, There were people like, Asian, black, white, this, that. That was like, this is crazy. And I'm over here noticing these things. Like, I think, they keep emphasizing that. But I was always very proud of my culture, like exaggerated. So much that even that, right? Like I learned, like I bump heads with my friends a lot too, because I went all the way to it. It was like, okay. So even religion wise, right? Like so many of us are that, right? Like Catholic, Christian, this, and I was like, wow, if this stuff raped our ancestors, murdered our ancestors, how could I ever? So I would get into those discussions, even that. So I went all the way. If you want to talk about being uncolonized, I went all the way to like, okay, let's really live like that. Like if you guys, but I didn't find the support. Like I was all about it. Like I really, but I saw in people weren't really like, I was willing to die for it. Like that's
why I'm saying it runs so much in your core, and it feels like that you're ahead of your time, Omar. You're just ahead of your time. Like you are planted here as a seed to guide the way. So like you're wanting others to be in the same place that you are, but you're a leader. You're meant to spearhead, you're meant to be the lamplighter. So you're ahead of the time, and the time is now. So it feels like, because it's just like, don't give up on that part of yourself, because that runs so deeply within your core, and that you are the perfect person for it, because you are opening up this platform in an incredible way, embracing all. And that's what I meant at the very beginning. It's like, damn, you are opening up in a massive way spiritually, like in an incredible way, that you are being used to be able to say and open up and share with people that we are all people. We are all one.
But then that's where I have the conflict, like what you were talking about, is that like I keep feeling like it's really is all about unity, right? All people uniting. So it's like you really can't, like I can't go on that road, because it's like, how do you go on that road without becoming that, right? Prejudice and just like, oh well, I'm just about my people and that's it. You really, it's too fine a line to walk. Like you really can't, either you're gonna walk this road or you're gonna walk that road. And I feel like that part, it's funny because I'll see youth like very vocal, because obviously, right, we get called immigrants on our ancestral lands, and now, I see so many like people, and no disrespect to people like that. See, like there's really no way, because I'm very passionate about, or even that too, where our people, like now it's like we're being robbed of our, like, to say we weren't the original indigenous people of these lands, like someone else wasn't. And so it's like crazy what has happened to our peoples. You know what I mean? It's just insane. Like, and even that, like people really in movies is everywhere. It's all about black and white, black and white, black and white. Meanwhile, this is happening on the lands of the, like us. It's like if we're invisible, like, and everyone is having this party on where we were. Our when they talk about a Holocaust, this was a Holocaust. Yes. 100 times worse than what happened over there, so.
Right. Yeah. And all of this is now coming up into like now in the present time, and maybe this is like, it's not really so much about like having to go back. It's not about going back. You've already been there. You've already moved on. And again, this is why you're the leader, the lamplighter. It's like, so that it just feels like it runs so deeply within you that it helps to guide you, and then to not be jaded, to not go in that direction to where this is why I really do feel that I can see you in deep ceremony, like, and oh yeah, like it runs so deeply within you. And this is like, I don't know if you have a curiosity even of past life, because this is what I'm talking about. We never know what comes up. But I'm actually seeing where you have had connections even in this past time. So when I was talking about like going back to seeing the Mayan, the Aztecan culture, that come in from desde Mexico up into our region and all of this, and like you said, the decimation and all of that, it is so deeply within. It's a soul imprint. And so this is why your soul, is really speaking to, is like you're coming back into this time, this incarnation at this time, because all of that is already ingrained within you. I am seeing like literally images of you having experiences of being of that time. That's why it's so deep. That's why it hurts so much. That's why it's like, I can't go there. I can't face it, because it is a deep seated and rooted energy within you that's even beyond this lifetime. Okay. So in this lifetime, you're like, okay, let me see all peoples. Let me connect with this. Let me bring all of this understanding in. And then you're going in the different direction of that rather than holding on to the jadedness, the hatred of it. And like, because we can go there quick. Instead you're like, let me lift this and transform it into something else and something new. And that's what you're serving. That is powerful. And that's what's most called is that it's not so much about like connecting or go backwards. No, no, no. Go forward and just know that this energy is recognized, that you made a decision like in within yourself of like peace, like I am ready to let this go and I'm going to move forward in this other way. And so it's like you're serving and you're serving in an incredible way, especially on these public platforms and to continue to do the work. I even see that you have a possibility of even putting like a book of like I'm going to call them poems, but that's not the right word. It's like this. Oh my God, this is big, man. Oof, I'm seeing it like where it's totally paper. It's not hardback. It's made in a very special way. It's got color. So do you also do you sketch? Do you do art? Who do you do work with? Do you do anything like that?
I mean, I wrote and published my first two books this year. Like I wrote two books back to back,
Oh,
right?
you did already. Wow.
But they were just books like, but it was funny because one of those, it was basically almost like, you know how like that, someone with an NDE, they'll show you even that your whole life you planned, you agreed to it.
Mhm,
So it was like
mhm,
this book is me showing proof like of that. Like this, it was like with a number, right? And this number shows up throughout my life, but not only that, but it even goes to history. And
mhm.
the all the way to the Sun Pyramid, the Aztec Sun Pyramid. But it was also in ancient Greece. So I'm like, it's like here, there, all, all over, like,
Mhm,
but even that, right? Like I've had a lot of I feel like they're past lives because it's
mhm,
crazy. Like I'll dream it, then I wake up and I know, like go to Google and I'll put, and they leave me little anchors like, look
mhm,
this up. Like
mhm,
I've had so many different and they're native, right? Like a lot of them, I
mhm,
really haven't dreamed of me being like reincarnated in other culture. It was like one was like, oh, the Iroquois, it tied into the Iroquois. Then I was in a coming of age ceremony and I found them. It was a tribe in Virginia and we were in the water and they would have their ceremonies in the water and I was like the kid coming of age and there was like, like the medicine men and
mhm,
everything and different tribes
mhm,
would come together. I found that. The Iroquois, I was like in a longhouse sweat and I didn't even know those existed. All my time going to sweat, I didn't know they had longhouse sweats. And then I was with the Iroquois. Then I was with these
mhm,
in Peru. They were 600 years before the Inca. They were called the
mhm.
Warriors of the Clouds. And I was there. So I was like, what? Like, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. So there's no coincidence why we're drawn to the people we're drawn to. So like yeah, I can feel all of that like so deeply within. That's why I'm like, oh no, I don't know if you're curious about past life because I am seeing that this is so ingrained within you because of all of this. That you are from here. We're drawn also, souls are also drawn to incarnate in the lands that they incarnate for reasons. That
Mm,
there's a bond and a tie and it's part of that soul technology that we choose where we're going to incarnate, who we're going to incarnate with, our family, and all these other stuff. Like you said, we plan it on the other side, but our locations too. So even when we're born in a particular place and we're drawn to go someplace, that's why I can see how the time of the pandemic really served you, man. Like like going out into nature and just like really, I don't know, it like awakened even something greater and bigger than you. It feels like you even made a decision of like, okay, like saying yes in a big way. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, yeah. And then just go for it. Meaning like, okay, I don't know where this is gonna take me, but yeah, okay, I'll do it. That's what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Okay. What questions do you have? I mean, it's just that's a quick. I mean, usually they go longer and we go deeper in all of this other stuff, but yeah, just that
uh,
it's very powerful what you're doing. So just yeah.
well, I don't need, because see, so about a year ago, I started having these pains, right? And I've been working with so many people to try to help me. Even the last interview I did, right? She's a healer and she was helping me, but and it's gotten a lot better, but it still seems to be there, this pain, right? And I always felt from the beginning it was something spiritual.
Yeah. Is it in
You
your
know,
back?
it's like the sciatic nerve. So even, and it happens when I'm driving, or even right now, if I'm sitting too long, I'll start feeling it like burn. Like, but it started with like the right, like by the butt, right, the right butt or under it, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was working like, for a whole year, right? I started doing, because of the whole pandemic stuff, I lost my main source of income, so I started doing this, and but I knew there was a different reason. But it's like the sciatic nerve from the hitting the gas, hitting the brake, hitting the gas, hitting the brake. But then after I stopped doing that, like there was no reason for the pain to linger on.
Mm-hmm.
Still been there, right? So it's like, okay, I almost feel like, okay, you want me to do it, like how you said, like I've always been open. You want me to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's fine. Like I know,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Like I get like how connected I am to, like you already showed me. I literally wrote a book about how I planned out pretty much. So if I really plan, at what point do I? Because they've told me from the beginning I get better at some point, but it's like, okay, there. And I know that, right? The other day when I finished my album, it was so weird. I had this moment of peace. Like I understood. Had I not been in pain, it was almost worth it. Like that whole year of pain was worth it. That I wrote the 2 books and finished this album. And there was like a, like I even smiled about it, almost like, okay, yeah, like it was worth it, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to say it to like, okay, I don't want to keep the pain though. Yeah, maybe it was worth it
Mm-hmm.
because I accomplished this. I know I wouldn't have if I wasn't in pain, if I wasn't kind of confined to not being able to go.
Mm-hmm.
But like, at what point does it leave? Like.
Well, and I do want to validate you. It feels like a spiritual thing. I am drawn to your back, your lower back. Okay. And so the nervous system, and I'm seeing like where the vagal nervous system, and I'm seeing where like even further down. So the pinch is further up, even though it's like deep within, like I can see where like in the buttock where like the muscles like really tense, but I'm also seeing it as like oh my God, you've been holding your breath through this whole thing. Like you said, smiling with everything that you've accomplished. Holy cow. It's going to be really good for you. And I still do see another one. I do see another one of short, but have you taken pictures? Like have all the different places that you traveled and you took a
Yeah.
bunch of different pictures and all
Well,
kinds of
like
stuff?
during the pandemic,
Uh-huh.
I started taking pictures, uploading them, trying to
Uh-huh.
to try to. I actually, not too long ago, like I saw, like I sold my first picture even, so I was like, oh,
Okay.
like, all right.
Okay. I'm seeing that actually, but I'm seeing a book. Okay. So I'm seeing a book with a lot of your photos and then even some of your writings. And it looks like it's done like scratch, man. I can't pick like even like it looks edgy. It looks like it's scratch, like it's like almost like pen, even as if there's like, I don't know, there's something really, really, really cool that it feels like a book of some of your writings and some of your photographs. Like
Mm,
you have potential for it. Like where I don't know, this feels really, really cool. Okay, so going back to this other thing, sorry.
no, no.
Um,
Uh,
it really feels like because of everything that you've had going on, and it's feeling ooh, okay, so what I've got all of a sudden is like I was seeing these roots growing down from like the bottoms of your feet, like the need for grounding, like a tree. Okay, so grounding into the roots. You have felt unsupported. You've already said this here, okay? So, like, you have been trying to be a trunk of a tree with all of this above, holding on, but needing to plant some roots. And roots doesn't mean like staying anchored and stuck and stagnant. It means let all of life and earth support you, okay? So, in order for a tree to grow and really extend and branch out, it needs deep, deep, extended, branded roots, okay? And so it feels like for you, it's an energetic thing. You hold so much. I'm also seeing where like you need to like move more. So like literally to discharge because like you're like, like when you're in the zone, you're like, okay, like you can even would you even box? Do you like
I mean,
sometimes even sit there and like air box or something?
oh yeah, yeah, I've done that
Okay,
because yeah, I used to hit the punching bag a lot, like before
okay.
and everything. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm seeing like that needs to happen again. It's like needing to discharge body energy, and then it even felt and I see like a deep stretch. Okay, so like needing to for the leg where you have it is actually movement of it. So it's a feeling of planting roots, meaning in like in the earth, imagining it. and then where all of the life force from the earth actually, because you have felt unsupported. It's a spiritual thing.
Mm.
So it's like, oh no, everything's about it. It's you're so supported. Let life support you. Let it, let it in. It's okay to branch out your roots. Let it go deep. Let it flow up through you in abundance. And when you branch out in this strong way, you're not going to have to feel like you're holding it all together. So it also even feels when you said like there's something coming up, like a project, somebody who wants to work with you, a collaboration, like on a long-term kind of thing. And that actually, I don't know what this is, but it actually feels really, really good. Let people help you. It's like it feels like people haven't shown you trust, like that they're trustworthy. And so you're like, oh, God, I wish I could cuss, but I want to say
No, you could cuss.
F it. Okay, I'm gonna just be like, fuck it, yeah, I'm done with people. I'm gonna just do this on my own but it feels like the time is right, the right people will come. It feels like some kind of collaboration that would be really good for you. Does that even make sense? Is there
Yeah.
something coming up in your experience? Because I'm like, wow, this is big. It's
I
good.
mean, I faced it so many times, even with music. Like one album, I
Mm-hmm.
remember I invited like 8 people to to come on this album, and every weeks passed and nobody got back to me. I finished every song by myself, like 8 songs, and then finally when people got back to me, like I already finished it, like because to me it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even make sense. And maybe it's like because I'm from that time, right? Like where, like I even when I was young, 17, 18 years old, we ended up like in $500,000 studios, and it's like you might not get another second chance. Sometimes you had to write a song on the spot, so I had to learn like, oh, with all the pressure, like, yeah, I don't know if
Okay.
you know who like Ice Cube is, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like I remember once we had like, we were at the studio and they had one of Ice Cube's producers, like he had made this, and they were like, when are you gonna get another chance? I'm a 17-year-old kid. I grew up listening to this kid. I mean, to this guy. So one of his producers, we had a beat, and then we had to write on the spot, and it's no like, oh yeah, I'll send you a verse that shouldn't take more like 30 minutes to an hour. I'll send it to you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4. It's like it doesn't even. It just show like to me. It showed like if people don't care, like you don't like
Mm-hmm.
like what's the deal? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Here's the crazy thing, Omar. When we talked about this at the very beginning, like my crazy morning, right? Totally had a plan. We had a whole thing going. But here's the thing. Sometimes when shit comes up on my end, I'm like, what the heck, man? Okay, I know that this is partially me, but I also am paying attention to everything that comes up, okay? It was as if no matter what happened, something got in the way. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, man, I'm going to show up because, I had to cancel on this guy before and we're going to do this. And I had all this intention, right? We had the whole plan laid out and everything. And then this morning, everything out, literally out of my control. I was like, okay. And I like literally had to take a breath. I told you I was talking to you in my mind of like, okay, Omar, I promise, just take a breath. Okay. So this keeps happening to you again and again and again. Because it keeps happening to you again, it's like almost created a belief and a system and way the universe shows up to you. And every single time it happens, it's like, see, there it is again. So instead, reversal, okay? So we got to reverse the engine instead of saying, like, I now attract people that honor my time. If they are not there to honor my time, then, and if you've already done that, like moved on, but it keeps happening. So it's about changing the belief inside. Okay, where did it originally come up? How did this first start to you? Where was the very, very first time that this happened where you got let down and that they just didn't show up, right? And so that stays as a soul imprint. And we don't even know that this shit exists inside of us. And then it plays out in every scenario that happens up. Okay, so here I am, like, I'm gonna do this, man. And so I literally made that intention. And then when all of these things like the dog, this, the delivery, my laptop shut down. And I was like, ooh, okay. It was like I understand in those moments there is something greater than myself that is serving here. I'm going to relax in the moment, take a breath, contacted you and be like, okay, let's just see. And then sure enough, okay, so how do we change these things? We change it on the inside. I now attract to myself people who honor my time, people who show up, people who are there, ready, willing. and that you will begin to open up into something entirely different. You'll open. That's why I feel like that sciatic is a body message. See, here's the thing: our soul communicates to us through a whisper first. If we don't get it, it gets louder and louder. Sometimes a rug is pulled up and pulled out from underneath us. And then we don't understand how these things get created and how they turn out. And when we finally discover the original source, oh, that's where that created. Okay, I let go of that agreement. I unwind, I unbind, rewind. I don't invite that experience with me anymore. And then we shift it, we change it, and then we begin to allow a whole other experience. Then you're going to have people freaking show up. You're going to be in demand. People will be able to operate in a different way. And it's not because they are different, right? It's because something inside of us has shifted. You're like, I'm done with that. Been there, done that. And so then you begin to show up and opening up in a different way. And then like the universe will open up because it's almost like this energy that like sets out a signal as like, this is the way Omad experiences life. And then the universe, it does not know. Okay. It is efficient, it conspires in our favor. It doesn't know the difference between right, wrong, good, bad. It doesn't speak in that language. All it knows is the emotion and then what we consistently see and feel. Okay. So when we understand, it's like, okay, let me reverse this. Let me start seeing something different. And then we begin to like actually work it. Okay. So when we don't get those messages, those things actually show up in the body. When we don't get it in the mind, we don't get the signals, and it's a deep inner quiet voice. And we confuse the voice that we have inside. We think that that voice, it's like, see, like, look, see that, how that happens? That's not the voice. That's the judgment voice. That's the ego voice that was created something different. This other voice is, everything is in divine order. It's going to be okay. Listen, pay attention, go with the flow. There's something that's different. And that's when you do ceremony. Oh, you've already tapped into that. So that's a long way to say body. It feels like once you get that support, and I do see working the upper back, not upper back, but go further up from the buttocks and then like on your lower back. All of a sudden the lumbar word popped into my head. I'm not a massage therapist, but I want to say the lumbar. So it feels like right above the hips. It even feels like the joints in the pelvic area, like right up above, that there's something pinching. There's um okay, I'm not a doctor, but this is stuff that pops up in my head. So look it to yourself. But I'm even seeing like magnesium, where like a need for it with muscle, but it feels topical to me instead of taking it systemic. And then I'm even seeing where like deep tissue body work in there. And it even feels like, to me, it looks like it's a pinch. It's so tight, like in the nerve. Well, of course, sciatic, of course. Okay, let me go a little bit further. And movement. So getting the support when you start to, allow and open up to the support with people coming in, actually supporting you, showing up for you, and then like begin to alleviate this, like the physical symptom goes away. So yeah, you're spot on. It's a spiritual thing.
So I mean, and it's fun. It's just hard to okay. So you really feel it's like because I can't see myself wanting that experience, right? Like I can't see myself because I've always expected people to come through, right? Like I expect that. So it's more like when people don't, it's almost like you would expect someone to do for you what you would do for them, kind of thing, right?
Right.
So
There's something deep. If what I'm feeling is like somewhere there was a letdown, like somewhere deep
there's
in
been
your,
men, there's been men in this life. And
okay.
I'm even wondering, was it like letdowns from even past lives or what? Because it's like,
And actually that energy does stem. Okay. So like when we were talking about, it's like, oh man, like all of this that runs so deep inside of you, it really does. It's like from your core. It's a soul imprint, right? And so yeah, because you show up for people. You want people to show up the way you show up. Because I mean, you're a man of your word. Like, damn, if you give somebody your word, boom, there you are. Like you will do it no matter what. And we have that expectation that other people will do that for us. And all I'm seeing is that there's somewhere, and it runs subconscious. Here's the craziest thing, Omar. We don't even know that I'm going to call it the original lie. Okay.
Mm,
Whenever that one original pain, that like it's this one thing. I read this Australian psychological journal that literally said when these atrocities things happen to you, especially when we're young, it's soul murder. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that hit me deep.
mm,
Soul murder. I was like, damn, that's exactly what happens. That's what the whole system of this world that we're in, that literally separates us from feeling that first original soul. I call it the first lie. Wherever
mm,
that is, wherever that pain was created, and then it runs subconscious. So we want a different experience. We think the different experience. We talk the words. We see it. We feel it. But somewhere deep inside, under the current, there's this other thing. That's what rules. That's what is sensed and felt. So when we talk about manifestation, right? Like, how do we manifest? Well, you're not manifesting anything. It's already there created. All you're doing is just putting your energy and attention to something. And the thing is that it's not even our conscious thoughts that even run it. It's our subconscious thoughts that run it. That's what we don't understand. So it just feels to me like there's this one original thing where like somebody freaking just like bomb let you down, that you literally had to like, and that was explosive, big, deep, it runs harsh. And like you said, it even feels so much so past life for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have this imagery of like one of these lifetimes of where you just had like a rite of passage. It's even like kind of, oh wow. And having to, oh yeah, so I see like all of this battle of like lands and all of this stuff, and where you're just like one of the worst things to overcome in a soul imprint is what I call a death vow. Okay. A death vow is one of those things that is so incredibly energetically like it's explosive and those moments of death. So when someone is like passing away and say a loved one is like, I will take care of you, or they like shout out like, promise me you will take care of, or promise me you're going to do this. And when the soul person's like, it's not really in alignment with them, but they make this promise and they make this this like death vow. Okay. Meaning that this vow to accomplish something in death through this heightened experience creates a soul imprint, and it creates a play out. So that's why you're here in this lifetime. It's like clearing all of this out. That's why you're, doing these different sweats, going in these different directions. Like all of that is like being able to heal it now. And so even just talking about it, like begins to shift and change it. And you don't have to go back. And here's the thing, we don't have to like dig it apart and go to our, like, because that just holds us and binds us to it. If we understand, okay, this is an imprint that I have inside, okay, I'm going to let it go. How does it show up? I get it all the time. Okay, how do I create something new? Let me remove the barriers. Let me remove that program. It's like an automatic program that runs like in a computer system that just keeps happening again and again, subconscious. Okay, so instead we begin to have to work with it consciously, being like, no, I let that go. If it shows up, we try something new. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. See,
no,
and
no,
that's
it
the
does.
difference. Yeah. And the
It does.
difference with soul reading is like it's really like for me, it's I want to give the information, but it's more about like, oh yeah, cool, she got that right. Yeah, right on. Yeah, but what do I do with the information? What is this even for? Like, what is my even purpose of even tapping into this to be like, oh wow, that was cool. Yeah, I sure have a good experience, but let me give you this guidance from within. It's like, man, life can be so much better if we understand these parts. If you understand these little pieces and what's deeply within, man, your life could open up in an incredible way. That's what this is about. That's what I care about. And it's really about helping people understand that, man, you have a divine, what I call the God spark inside. There's something so powerful that when we tap into that, like, oh yeah, life will be exactly, we'll release these resentments, things will happen, it'll be better. We begin to have like this different flow. Hmm.
No, and thank you so much for like everything that you've said, right? Because there's so many. Yeah, I had chills like half through things. Also, I was gonna ask you, do they? Because there's certain things I've been shown that I've never told nobody. Do they actually show you? And so I've always waited to see if someone will ever tell me that they see certain things that I've been shown, but it's almost like I won't talk about it unless someone But will they actually show you who someone was in a past life or no?
Yeah, like as I was talking to you about it, I was like, I can see it. And when my eyes kind of veer off to the side, and I had to actually explain to somebody because they're like, "Are you looking at me?" Like, is somebody in the room? It's like literally like I zone out to whatever in my physical eye, and I am so shown all this imagery. So like I literally was seeing like you, long hair, Native American. I had a spear, also with the horse. I'm seeing like this whole battle having to do with lands and like oh my gosh, it's like is this intense thing. The thing that's shocking most is that they've got guns, but you guys have spears. You're massively skilled with arrow and spear, but guns are new. And
Mm,
that's the thing that's freaked out. And so like there is like the most skilled warrior like in the tribe taken down because of not understanding what the heck that was. That's a whole image in my mind, like a whole freaking movie. And so I have to simultaneously, while I'm talking, there's all this imagery. I'm such a visual person. And even when people talk, everything, it feels like my first language is images. When
mm.
people talk, it translates to an image in my mind. I can see it, I can feel it, and like I can describe it. And so like even when you're talking about like my sciatic, sometimes I can even feel it in my physical body, even when your shoulders. So I don't know what you did with one of them, but like it's really been bothering you recently.
Um, the right one, but I don't even know what I did with it. It was
It's like a
hurting.
it's like a like I want to like do a pinch. I don't know. Like, do you have a habit of like moving your arm and like trying to I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
well, I'll
there
do. Yeah, I go like that or different.
I want to say like you threw your arm up somehow and it like I want to say it like it pinched. So I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Um, do they? Well, okay. Let me ask you this other thing, right? Because I felt like there's this ancient person that I've seen since I was pretty young, right? In these visions. To me, I thought it was God. Like I was like, oh, this is God. That's why even when I would go around church and they'd be like, oh, no one communicates with God. This and I was like, to me, I was like, well, God visits me, So,
Yeah,
and I
I
didn't
do.
tell. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So I was like, I didn't tell nobody but it was like this ancient, and I just had so many theories about. I guess I see before I wouldn't talk about it, but I've even put it in a book now. So I'm like, because see, that was the thing when I wrote these books. I was like, if I die tomorrow, I felt like there. I
Hmm.
did what I came to Earth to do for some reason. Even with these two
Hmm.
books, after I finished them, I was like, I don't know, this feels important. Those two books that
Hmm.
I finished, right? It was like the first one more so, but then the second one was just me telling more stories. And then one of them, even that, right? It was like, it almost felt like this whole planet was dying. And
Hmm.
it was
Can I
just,
tell you?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
please.
so what I'm having in this image is like as you're starting to talk about, like just barely. What I'm getting is this image, and it has to do with like I want to say like Atzlan. That's the word. Wow, that's interesting because I wasn't expecting that. But I see like temple. I see like it's really really ancient. I see where it that they you're trying to understand like how is this connected to even Egyptian times? Because they have a technology of how it's actually connected from here to there. Okay. So I'm literally seeing is platform. So I want to, it's even if it's pre-Mayan. It's not even Olmec. It's even more ancient, way more ancient. Okay. There is even more temples underneath where you're looking. Okay. You got to go 2 layers deeper, Omar. Does that make sense to you? You got to go 2 layers deeper. You're not going deep enough. What it feels like is that there's this temple on the top, there's one underneath that was built on top, and it feels like 2 layers. So I want to say, like, whatever time frame you're thinking, go back even further. Okay. And the reason that they have the connection between here and this because it is the same peoples. Okay. So they also taught them there. So the Egyptian cultures and even over here and so like they're interdimensional, interterrestrial, interdimensional. People feel like they've like completely gone, but they really haven't, and you know that. So does all that make sense to you?
Well, okay. So there, like, because you know, what happened with me was when everything happened, like, I mean, I have already been experiencing things since I was little, but when I started, like, it, boom, it was like, you know, I guess it would have been kind of equivalent to like an NDE at that point because,
Mhm.
you know, I was ready. I was like, you know, my brother, right? He passed away from
Mm-mm.
suicide, right? He passed away from a suicide. He took it
Oh.
like 2019, right? And so I went to a dark place and I was like, I felt like I wanted to do that, right? I couldn't get out of the dark place, right? So then they visited me, these beings, and there's one, it's funny, like she became the one that kept visiting me. I call like I messed her, I play around, I call her my star wife, right? Which I don't know.
Mm.
Like I don't know if she really
Mhm.
okay, let me finish real quick. And then so she took me first, and you could tell she was someone with authority, almost like in the military, like a colonel or a mate, something, you know. And the first time she took me with my brother, and we always talk like telepathically, and she would just give
Mhm.
me a nod, and it's like I already knew. So she like the first time she took me, like, go ahead, go talk to your brother, and then after that, they appeared like who they really were, and I don't know, like to me right away it was like telepathy. When I woke up, I knew, like, you know, I guess what they call Palladians or something, right?
Mhm.
But she was wearing a crown. And even when I told a friend, like, oh, this, you know, they visited me. Oh, and the, oh my God, the heart, the love I felt with her was like nothing else you feel in this existence, right? Even, and it's sad to say because even like when my brother passed, you know, I realized like the amount of love I had from, but with her, it was it like I didn't even want to be here no more. It lasted like over 2 months. I had to shake it off because I like, well, I'm still stuck here, right? But
Mhm.
it was like, you know, it was just some love. Like, and I thought, like, is that who I am? Like, that's where I come from. Cause like,
Mhm.
is that who I am? Like, these are the star people I come from or what? Because there was just
Yes.
this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I was seeing is like when I was like, oh, it's pre-Mayan, back in the Egyptian. Like there's a connection between the two. These are star beings, star people. And like, so there are souls that have chosen to incarnate at this time, and you being one of them. So we call star seeds, you know, we have this experience. But here's the thing is that we don't understand this technology of incarnation. And what I was recently shown, Omar, is that there is like a certain souls that are currently incarnate that are having a dual incarnation. Now, that's not a surprising thing. So let me explain that. Time does not exist on the other side. So every incarnation technically we're having is all simultaneous. Yes, I get that. However, what I'm saying by a dual incarnation is where like our soul in the same timeline actually does occupy two life forms and two places. The very, very first time I saw the movie Avatar, the first Avatar, oh my God, I was blown. I was literally shaking in my seat. I sat there crying. Like people were like, "Are you okay?" Because the things that were shown is like so much truth in plain sight. Like a lot of this stuff is channeled. A lot of these inspirations that we get are in these movies are truth. When I was actually shown that there's this technology of this being that actually gets transported through their consciousness into another being, I was like, oh my God, like who wrote this? They actually know it. Somebody else has experienced this. I'm not the only one. I literally shook in my boots.
Mm.
Well, I've never said that. That sounds so funny.
It's okay.
That's funny. I've never said that.
First
But
time
in
for
the
everything.
moment, yeah. The point is that I was same thing with you. Okay. The most important thing to understand is having these dual incarnations. Though this class that you're speaking of, okay, that there is a very highly evolved class of spiritual beings that I have been calling them. They're like warriors of the goddess, okay? Warriors. They're a warrior class, and they are all here to help and bring and usher in the energy that Earth was supposed to be in the first place.
Mm.
We're supposed to be a divine Earth plane, to be these incredible creatures. In order to do that, we have to incarnate from the inside and change it from the inside out. So when I keep saying you're a lamplighter, don't go backwards, you're here to guide, bring people forward, that's such a huge part of your mission. That's why you're here in this lifetime. So what you were shown, see, people don't understand is that our ability to imagine, have all of this deep inside, everything that you just described, that's more of an ability to tap into the unseen, which is more real than what we actually see with our eyes.
Absolutely.
you know?
I
So
always
yeah.
feel when I have these experiences, like that's how I know. I wake up and it's, I haven't drank like in 8 years, right? But that's how it feels like. You wake up like you just drank a bunch of Nyquil or something, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm like there was a time too, right? Especially during this whole, cause see, I had my pandemic. When the pandemic hit, it wasn't phasing me because I had just experienced like the worst year of my life, like the year before with my brother and everything. And it was funny, not just that. It was like there was a bunch of things that all happened, so it was crazy, right? And then so when the pandemic hit, it wasn't really happen like I don't know, but I was living. That's when I first saw, like, the first time I was in the shower and I got it right. I've explained to people because obviously we come into this existence through water, so it would make sense that
Yes.
I was in the shower. All of a
Mhm.
sudden, I started seeing multiple realities at once, like
Mhm.
just, and I was like, you feel like, wait, like I didn't know how long it was gonna last. Like I panicked. I fell to my face. I started praying, like, please take it away. It lasted like a minute. I'm just seeing all these realities simultaneously. And
Mhm.
in that moment, you're like, wait a second, what, like, how do you make it stop? And I'm just praying, like, take it away. But that was my first
Mhm.
glimpse of, like, and then I started seeing all these. I had tons of experience with multiple realities, and
Yes.
yeah,
Oh.
it was just
Well, there
crazy.
you go. And then I'm just like from the very, very beginning of like, oh my God, opening up so much. And the reason for water, not only do we come through water, the majority of us within water, like, and then water is a conductor. Okay. So here's the thing. A lot of this that you're getting is telepathic communications from these from star beings. You're getting all of these impressions, and all of this is telepathic communication. More and more of us who are of those lineages. We have Palladians, Arcturians. We have a lot of different, star species that are currently on the planet incarnate in human bodies. We're human, but our soul emanates from another source because we're here to help usher in this new time and this new era. Like this, I keep saying that the time of the new earth is now, and we're the ones creating it. And that they are here, interdimensional, celestial and terrestrial beings, okay, that are actually helping us. And that those of us who have chosen to incarnate, you being one, like having all of this connection and having all those awarenesses. So when they want to send us information telepathically, like the bath, the shower, especially, like those are because it's a conductor of electricity. So like these are all electrical impulses. We're electrical beings. This images in our minds, they're pressings. So when we're open to it, oh yeah. So that's why I'm surprised. Like if you have you already started to scratch down like the things that you get in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I have a
Uh-huh.
little. Sometimes I have premonitions like every day,
Mm-hmm.
or like I got invited, like, what was it? Like, oh, I don't know, not this week. Last week I got invited to, like, well, I had been invited. One of my guests, right? They said they have like little like meetings of,
Mm-hmm.
like spiritual groups, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
went to one a couple months ago, and then something told me to go in. I think it had been 2 months, and then I was like, "Hey, are you guys still having the group?" And then yeah, so I went in, and I had just had like this crazy dream, but it was kind of, in the dream I wasn't scared, but when I woke up, it was kind of eerie because it had to do with like now times, and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
crazy things going on, military stuff and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't like in the best interest of the people, right? And so this person got on them. They're like, "Hey, I don't like to talk about conspiracy stuff, but I just had this crazy all this stuff." I was like, "Oh wow, I just dreamed all that." So
Mm-hmm.
so I realized that, like, sometimes I see things from the past, sometimes I see things in real time, sometimes it's premonition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll write all that
Mm-hmm.
down, like the dreams. Have my little thing. I've written over 1,000 songs, like, in my time. So that's why even in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning when you're saying like you see me writing, yeah, because I write like it comes out so easy. There was a time when I'd
Mm-hmm.
write like 10 songs a day. That's why I would get so frustrated, and I would try to think, okay, maybe it's just me. Like I shouldn't be hard on other people. Like, but it wouldn't make sense to me. If I could write 10 songs in a day, how could you not just give me a verse like in in 2 weeks, even 3 weeks? So it was just this frustration,
Yeah.
and again, it's just,
Yeah.
maybe it was just me. Maybe that was, I would sometimes think maybe it's just my lesson to learn patience, but wow, like that's just too much patience at that point.
Well, and it's also part of one of the telltale signs of exactly what we're talking about. When star seeds incarnate, okay, it's like we have to abide by the rules and the physics of here. When like over
Mm,
there it's instantaneous. So then
wow.
you have a double whammy on you, okay? So you're like, well, first of all, the people here are all messed up and what the heck is wrong with them? They can't get it together. First of all. Second of all, it's like, why the hell does shit work like this? How come it doesn't work? How come we can't get things done? So you have this imprint within you because of, again, star seeds, higher existence. And then it's like boom, 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 boom. You're here on a mission to get shit done. Okay.
Mm,
And so it's like that imprint within. Yeah. And then the second part is like, okay, why doesn't it work here? And so you have a double whammy. So learning that human experience, that's the most difficult part. Yeah. So
yeah, no, that's funny. So you've been shown that that's who you come from as well. Okay. Did they show you which one exactly, or
mine is more Arcturian.
okay?
Yeah, and I've had some profound experiences. Like in one particular, we can even talk about that of actually being shown, and it's pretty profound,
Okay.
almost similar.
Okay. No, definitely. So one
Hmm.
last thing I'll ask you about, and so then we could do the interview as well, and people
Hmm.
can hear your story. Is so for example, there's been like I remember I'll talk about this one in particular, but it's happened with a few people. But like even that, right? Like there was a young woman that I dreamed about, and then all of a sudden, like and it's happened with a few, but there was one I kept dreaming about over and over and over. And I actually messaged her like, because I understand this, right? So I've done it at the risk of like maybe to them, they're like, yo, this guy is crazy or something, right? But it's like I'm like, and I'll tell them, and I'm kind of almost hoping that they've had the experience too or something. But so when that has happened, what is that? Is it that they're past life people? Am I seeing some kind of future thing, or is it an alternate reality? Why this person do I keep dreaming about them? And there's such a
Hmm.
like I don't get it. And then I eventually let it go. I'm just like, well, I said my part, whatever. Like, I guess not, right? Like, but
Hmm.
I know, like when I know something, but
Hmm.
obviously in this human experience, like, yeah, it is what it is. Like you can't, so you just share it with people, and
And
then
let
that,
it be.
yeah. So what is that exactly? Like when that happens?
So when that happens, it's a couple of things. One, it's like what I call the soul recognition.
Mm,
Is like there is something so deep within that recognizes that other soul. So it could be a couple of things. One, they're part of the soul family, okay? Because our soul families are not just it's not our birth family. It's like soul families extend. We're part of a soul group, okay? Which means that we chose to incarnate, and so that's a recognition. So it's a little bit of both. So having to do with the past life, but having that deep, like part of the soul family, the soul group. There's an awareness within you, and they can be all over the planet. And that's what I've been discovering recently is that a lot of people I've been having sessions with are like, oh my God, there's something that you said or that I just knew or your voice, that there's something about it where that like we are all incarnate around the whole planet. And so we're spread out. So you having that deep knowing and you have a higher awareness. I want to acknowledge, Omar, that everything that you experience is very, very heightened. That a heightened spiritual experience that many people, I mean, it's not normal. That these things would normally happen like you said, people with NDEs, but even if you've had OBEs, out of body, you've always been attuned. So it runs naturally because of your own incarnation, but that's not normal.
mm,
So you have a heightened sense. You have a deep, deep, keen intuition and instinct of people because you're so attuned to, well, you're attuned. Okay, so let's quiet. What are you attuned to? Well, it's the ethers. So what is all of this is that we are in a living vibration, all where it is alive and infused with energy. So you can sense and feel and see. It is a part of you. And that's one of the other things that is an indicator of being a starseed. We know things, we feel things, we're intuitive in that way. And that's what all people are supposed to be. So others are disconnected, like asleep, unaware. So you see something within that they cannot even like fully grasp or understand. So you're like, that's part of the frustration. Like, "Ugh, what's wrong with people here? They don't work right. You know? Yeah. Because they
that's
don't.
oh no, thank you so
Well, I
much.
mean, we do. It's just this is why we're here is for our healing. that most people are on there, and I want to be very gentle with this. We're all in our levels of our healing. My gosh, I've been doing this for 23 years, So it is a path. It is, and we're all on the journey together. Yeah.
Thank you so
All
much.
righty.
Okay, so we'll end it there. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we're gonna do the interview.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.